wanted to walk through what we're doing with Vator. It's our slant of how we think a very interesting platform for participating in the innovation community should work. And if some of you guys are interested in joining, let me know. Happy to have you in the club. It's open to accredited investors right now only, but happy to talk more about it. Also, this is the product of about 3 years of work studying the private funding landscape and thinking about companies that are operating in the space, and how can we create a platform that not only sources great companies, but also allows people to participate in various ways in actually the success and growth of those companies. So I'll go from there to the next slide. Do I have clickers here? So first off, what is Vator? Vator is 3 main parts. You're experiencing one today. We have a social network for entrepreneurs where we have a very strong membership. We have Vator Media, which is news and media and coverage, and also has our events platform, which you're experiencing as well today. And then we have our Vator X, which is a platform for sourcing and vetting startups. So it's no accident there were 8 great pitches today. That actually comes through a network of companies and channels that feed into a platform where we have amazing delegates help filter and sort through those companies to source the most interesting ones. And so our Vator X platform not only powers the Vator platform, but also powers a number of other organizations that use it to help filter their startups and participants in their startup communities. We have we on the social network, we have bordering on 150,000 registered users, grows by about 250 to 750 a month. We have about 10,000 startups. We see about 100 to 300 startups a month join our network each month. So it's a great channel for seeing lots and lots and lots of companies. On our news platform, very fortunate to be able to have great relationships with people, as you've seen today with all the great folks coming through in LA, but across the world really. And given the strength of the media and coverage team, able to get really good insight into things that are happening in the industry. Events, you've seen today's event. We have our post-seed event, which we do each year, more focused on the venture community. And we have splash events, Bay Area, Los Angeles, New York, London, several other places. And obviously just great thought leadership access, which is terrific to be able to participate in. But the Vator X platform is really fascinating. And what Bambi and the company have built on the back end enables us to essentially filter out and look at companies by the hundreds and get down to the tens and get down to the ones. And if you think about the companies that have come through the Vator X platform, Thumbtack, PocketDoc, Dog Vacay, Apartment List, Udemy, not saying these companies were successful because of their participation in Vator, but they were companies that were identified very early in their development, amongst others. And if you look at the people who've been on our stage, so of the 8 companies today, those ones of that tier, they've gone on to raise over just the last few years over $500 million in follow-on capital. So companies that have been able to aggregate substantial amounts of capital, which is a great indicator they're strong companies. We haven't, we're still early in the last few years. Not a ton of them have gone on to exit, but they're on substantial growth trajectories with substantial capital formation. So what we looked at the problem of, okay, how can we now create an environment where people can participate in that growth? So if we'd had a fund and we'd been able to offer to our member community the ability to invest, it would be one hell of a portfolio. And so we began to think, how do we do this in a way that's regulatory compliant, that takes advantage of the strength of our community, takes advantage of the relationships we have? How can we create a platform and has a very low hurdle for investment? So it starts with deal flow. So if you're thinking about the venture investing business, ultimately, are you seeing and vetting interesting investment opportunities? And so we look at what we see as a crowd-vetted model. So we think about companies coming in. We have our delegates that help review those companies. Those filter up to the top. We have our competitions. We have our other sources of opinion. Also, our media helps with that. And we're able to then get down to a smaller number of companies that we think are really interesting. We also look at, we're not, I would say, totally exclusive to things that come through the Vator platform, but we definitely lean towards opportunities that, or we're leaning towards opportunities that are going to come up through the channel that we've developed. We're pretty market agnostic. Generally, I would say places where they're digital, primarily digital businesses for the most part, although we're open to things that are in other categories, apparel and other areas we think are quite interesting. But generally things that are capital efficient, post-product market fit, we're not going to be substantial lead investors, so usually have an institutional lead or a very strong angel lead. So we're a companion investor along with other investment groups. The way what we look for are rounds where we can contribute probably $250,000 to a round. Normally rounds around $1 million to $5 million in size, so we're participating with other investors. We did our first investment through the club about 6 weeks ago. We put in a couple $100,000 into a round of $10 million, so $9.5 million of that round was from the insiders. We were fortunate to be asked to participate, and so we did a small piece of that. That's a little bit later than we'll typically do, but we're not doing seed investing. We're doing more kind of mid-stage investing. We look for companies that have shown that they actually have some real momentum in the market. So of the companies today that we've helped to source to the investment community, I think a good number of them will go on and raise capital, and we'd love to be part of that conversation. And then on the back end, open that ability to invest to you guys to actually participate in the investment. So how does that work? That's a lot of language, so I'll just walk you through it. We ask folks to make a pledge each year. So we say, how many deals do you want to be in? And someone says, the minimum pledge is I want to be in 4 deals a year for $2,500 a deal. So pretty low hurdle. $2,500 is, for some, it's a fair amount of money if you're like have a bar tab, but it's a pretty small amount of money if you're doing venture investing, and you would have a tough time getting into most venture funds at $2,500. So the way it works is you say I'll be in 4 deals for $2,500 a deal. We set up a platform where you're on a rotation, and we just work through it so everybody gets equal opportunity to get into deals. And when the next investment comes up, we come to you and say, hey, would you like to participate in this deal? It's your turn. There's no obligation to invest. You can say no. And then the only thing we ask for is if you're going to be in the club, you participate in 1 of 3 deals that we send you. And the reason being that ultimately we need to be able to go to the entrepreneur and say, we're going to deliver this amount of money to you. And if we're constantly coming up short, that's going to hurt our ability to get in on good deals. So the bottom line is we need to be able to say to the other investors and the entrepreneurs, we're good for 250 and deliver 250, or we're good for 100, or we're good for 500, whatever it is. And if we can't deliver on that promise, then ultimately, almost on its face, we'll get sorted at the bottom of the investment community. So if we're as consistent as an institutional investor, but open to the little gal, we'll be a venture capital quality product that people can get into at a much lower hurdle than they would be able to otherwise getting into great opportunities to invest. Some other little functional things, and then our economic model is carried interest. We don't take fee like a commission. We invest along. We're basically like a VC fund in terms of how our economics work, with some funds reserved for expenses. So we don't have to go through all this, but there's a grid of participation levels, and we throw in some bennies like free tickets to some of our events and so on at various levels, and we don't have to go through that. If you're interested in more about the Vator Investment Club, we can talk more about that. And ultimately, the nice thing about this model and why this structure, 1, simple for the investor. You get now a very clean, one-click opportunity to invest. You get the ability to get into deals with this low hurdle. It's very simple and predictable for the startup. You get to move quick. We get to move quickly on competitive deals, and we have the flexibility of crowdfunding and the speed of a venture fund. And ultimately, we look at the world and we see a movement towards a much broader base of people participating in the venture industry. We see a great opportunity with the network that we've developed for having people help us manage those investments. And we see an opportunity for people in the Vator community to now actually not just be at these events, seeing these companies sort of come into being and drift off into the world, and someone else is making all the money. You guys can now actually participate as well. So that's about all for my talk. I don't think we need to get into a huge amount of detail. I'll put my contact info up here. You can, VIC is Vator Investment Club. That'll come to us. If you're interested in participating, let us know. If you've got any questions, happy to answer any questions about the VIC. And that's our last presentation for this segment. Any questions? All right, cool. For today, I think that's it for this group. Yeah, great. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming.